Hi everyone, and welcome back. I'm doing a few videos this week. It's half term, I've got the week off, so I'm just kind of pushing on with this bike and putting more videos out. If anyone hasn't yet watched the giveaway video, please do. Please share it, even if you're not interested in applying for yourself. Share it anyway, because someone's going to win that bike. And a couple of websites already, well, a couple of pages on Facebook declined me putting that up, and they said, well, we don't get involved in lotteries or this or that. So I had to explain that actually it's not a lottery, it's a simple giveaway. I'm giving the bike away to someone who deserves it. But today what we're looking at on this is, it ran like crap the other day, and I believe everything's kind of smooth enough now for it to be okay. It definitely should be upjetted by 2 on each carb roughly. However, I bought these. Now you'll have to excuse the colour. I had no idea I was buying clown pod filters. They were black in the picture, I believe. Come on. Right. And they are slightly smaller than the ones I would normally use, and that's on purpose because I want restricted airflow. Because I want as close to standard airflow as possible. So that's what I've done with these. I've got 4 of these, and they have this bent connector here. That's on purpose. If you remember last time on the old zl600, I had to modify the pods slightly by hammering them to get them to fit. So I thought I could bend 2 down or 2 up, and maybe even 2 slightly sticking out of the frame, although I'm not sure yet, because this bike has the chrome side cap covers which go there anyway. The old bike didn't, so I'm not sure. What I was thinking was, sometimes it's quite cool, like if you had it kind of like that on both sides, slightly sticking out. I don't know, would that get in the way of your leg? Potentially. Notice they don't fit. I did know that. I bought smaller pods kind of on purpose because I wanted to restrict the airflow a bit. My plan is to modify them into the original hangers, exactly like that actually, look, and then look at fitting them. So there's no huge issue there. The only issue I would have is if these are kind of too far gone to fit back on, but I doubt they are. I got one on the other day, probably just need a bit of warming up. So that's going to be the first part of this video, which I'm not going to bother filming. I'm just literally going to be somehow squashing them in and somehow trying to fit them onto the bike. It's going to look like I've spent 30 seconds. It's probably going to be hours. But I'll show you when we're all set up and on the bike. Then I'm expecting this restricted airflow to help the bike run much better on startup and on through the rev range. If it's still a little bit tweaky, if it's still not running great, I'm going to upjet the main jets by 2 on each carb, and we'll see if that makes a difference. I may also need to lift the needle up to let more fuel in, but we'll look at all of that when we're closer to that stage. So for like full disclosure, this is what I've done. I've absolutely wrecked it because I want to fit the original thing in. I want it to fit into here, and I'll put some sealing, high temp sealer in there as well. So I'm going to chop this bit away and slip this bit into there if I can, and we should be good to go. Okay everyone, so it wasn't overly easy, but it's done. The AirPods are now on the original velocity stacks, so that's good. I'm going to have to do that 4 more times. That took half an hour, so I'll see you tomorrow. So there you go everyone, 4 AirPods on the original rubbers. If you're concerned about sealing problems in this gap here, you can put some silicone down there, or hot glue, anything like that. But because of the way they work, they kind of go in and they expand, so there shouldn't be any air in there. But if you've got concerns, put something down there. This high temp gasket silicone works perfectly well everywhere on the bike, and it's heat proof and it's petrol proof. So I'm going to see if after all that work I can actually fit these on the bike. It'd be pretty hilarious if the other ends, these ends didn't fit after all that work. If they fit on the bike, I might go straight into throwing some fuel in it and firing it up and just seeing if it's running any better at all with some air restriction. So there's one pod, guys, that went on okay. I'll pop the other 3 on, hopefully they go on okay as well. And then I'll chuck some fuel in, hook up a battery, or I'll try the original battery and see if we fire up a bit better. If we don't, definitely need to pop the carbs off again, definitely need to upjet. Okay guys, so there you go, 4 pods on. Now this probably won't be the long-term solution because the rubbers have gone too stiff, but if this works it will give me an idea of what I need to do. I'll probably need to buy better pods that fit basically, but for now this is going to give us an idea if some air restriction helps this bike ride and flow, so that's kind of exciting. I'm going to hook the original battery up on leads. I don't know how strong it is, it kind of went funny last time, and chuck some fuel in. Okay, so the original battery's hooked up and it did crank over gently. Let me chuck some fuel in. This is a great time to work out if the carb fix is actually done, if the one float adjustment on the left and the one new float needle on the right has solved the problem. Sometimes you come back overnight and they'd start flowing again and you realise that actually there's more problems inside than you think and you need rebuild kits. Now, a few things can happen here. It could fire up, it could settle down, and it could seem much happier with some air restriction. It could fire up and be exactly as it was, which is not running very well and a bit juddery and needs choke and so on and so on, and there's many things that could happen. The ideal situation is it fires up, it settles down, and it seems more okay than it has been. See this pipe? That's a suction pipe. That needs to be blocked off, otherwise the bike will never run properly. So let me block that off. That's a specialist block off tool. It's not really. Look at the carb. See the carb spilling? That means the carb problems aren't fixed, but we'll see if it fires. Put some more fuel in there. because if it idles I want it to idle for a little while. I'm going to give it a minute, actually let it warm up properly. There is kind of half choke on right now. So that's kind of, I'd say a quarter choke now. I'm still going to give it a couple of minutes and see. That felt much better on half choke. That felt like a normal bike. That means that the needle probably does need raising a little bit. The main fuel jet will definitely need lifting. And I mean, ideally the idle jet, the pilot jet will also be a touch higher, but we'll see where we get when this bike's actually fully warm now. Okay, so choke is fully off. So at the moment the bike is idling and the first third of the throttle is working. The second part of the throttle is the main jet. It's the needle. So what we need to work out now is, do we need to restrict the fuel with the needle, or do we need to allow more fuel with the needle? That's the half throttle stuff, and then full throttle will be the main jet. So at the moment we can get this running a little bit better if we look at the needle. So I might pop off this first cap on this carb and see what the needle's doing. If it's an adjustable and if it's been adjusted to run rich, then we'll change that. The other thing you should do at this stage with it running a bit better is, once again, you should get the synchronizer on and sync it. But at the moment I could definitely get on this bike with a petrol tank, and as long as it selects gears, it would run up and down the road. It just needs to be a bit smoother. So to establish why it's bogging, I'm going to take this off and look at the needle. When you take these off, there's always a chance that you can't put the diaphragms back in. If that's the case, you're screwed. You need to buy a new set. And it's not cheap. They're not cheap. So take it off, be kind of gentle with it, don't put it in or near any chemicals. You still might not be able to get it back in, but we'll have a look. Okay, so I've swapped sides because the other side was giving me a hard time. One of the screws was seized, which is fine. If I need to get them off, I would just take the carbs off and put grips on it. But we're only looking at the needle at this stage to see what's going on, to see if it's an adjustable needle and if it's been adjusted badly. A bit like the when people change the needles for emissions but they don't really know what they're doing. That's kind of what happens. And also we can have a look at these diaphragms and see how they're doing. Okay, so it's a bit dirty in here, but nothing major. Be careful with these diaphragms in case they, in fact, that's quite stuck in. Ideally I want to leave that in. Oh, is it adjustable? Where's that original? Let me pop that out. Oh look, this carb needs a good clean. That's crusty. Right. So it's not adjustable, but it's not standard either, I don't think. It's weird. 27L. Interesting. But look at all this. All that crap needs cleaning out. I don't know about this needle. N27L, I'm going to Google it. This could be... See how fat the top end is? That could be... What would that be doing? That would be sitting higher and letting out more fuel. It could be letting out too much fuel. Okay, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to give this carb a good clean. Look at the actual diaphragm itself. It's dirty, but you can't use any chemicals on that because it'll ruin it. So I'm going to see what I can do with these, how I can clean them up, and then we'll come back. So it would be silly now and a false economy not to pop these carbs back off and do them all again and upjet them to the 110s that I do have. I have a full set of 110s, so that's what I'm going to do now. Okay everyone, so these carbs are now completely stripped, top to bottom. I've also taken out the air fuel screws in these holes here. I'm going to clean all that out. I'm going to give them another thorough cleaning. I'm going to change all these main jets from 108s to 110s. Hang on a minute. Does that say 105? Are some of these 105 and 108, or did I see them all wrong? or the outside two 108s? I need to look very closely. Okay, I'm going to look very closely at what these jets are, and I'm going to upjet them by 2 on each one. But I am going to give the whole carb a thorough cleaning again, just because of how cruddy the top was earlier. And I mean, I've cleaned it up loads, but you can still see, look at all this residue. I mean, that won't hurt too much, but this is a vacuum chamber. Also, one of the diaphragms down there was twisted in, which wouldn't have helped its running condition. So a good clean. I'm going to look at them jets. I'll let you know if the two inner jets are higher. Sometimes bikes of this era did do that. They had it running richer on the inside, something to do with the heat exchange. The outside banks ran cooler, the inside ran hotter, so they added a bit more fuel. If that's the case, I'll probably upjet them accordingly. So if it's 105, I'll go to 107. If it's 108, I'll go to 110. Okay guys, so here's my problem. The jets in there, the two middle ones are 205 and the two out ones are, sorry, 105 and the two out ones are 108. Now, any research I've done online tells me that the original jet sizes are 98 roughly, and when you're upjetting you normally go to like 102. So somebody's upjetted by 10 and potentially done it wrong, because I always thought that the inside two should have been bigger jets and the outside two should have been smaller. No, I'm wrong. The outside, yes, because the inside of the engine runs hotter, the two inside. Anyway, apparently 98 is the standard. I'm going to have to throw in 102s all round on here, chuck it back on and see how that goes. I mean, I'd be nuts to go up any more without trying lower first and seeing if that makes a difference. So I'm going to chuck 102s in all the way around. It started raining for anyone who's interested. 102s all the way around and see if that makes a difference, because the bike may not have been running with too much air, running lean. It may have been running way too rich, even with the AirPods on, because even with the AirPods on you should only go up to about 102, and we're doing 105 and 108. So I'm going to go 102 throughout the carbs, put them back together, see if that makes a difference at all. And then honestly, this next part is just about carbs on and off, trying to get the carb adjustments right. If anyone does know the exact main jet sizes for the Kawasaki zl600 in the UK, please let me know. It might be 108s and 105s, but I don't think it is. And I'm going to be tweaking and trying anyway. Okay everyone, so I didn't have 4 102s, but I had 4 100s. Stock is 98, that's up by 2. That will give us an idea of whether we should have down jetted or not. If that don't work, I'm then going to go to 4 110s, which I do have. See if that makes a difference. This is the game you play when you're doing this stuff. This is what you have to do. You have to go around these circles to really get it fine-tuned. Okay everyone, when you put the diaphragms back in and the needle part, just check them. You should hear suction and it should come back down smoothly. If you don't hear suction or it doesn't come back down smoothly, you've done something wrong. I'm gonna pop these back onto the bike, and I guess we're gonna see if it runs any better or any worse. I really don't know. Everywhere online it said 98 was the main jets originally. I've gone to 100, I've gone 2 up. But I'm running high flow pods, so I don't know. Let's say, I mean, if it feels a bit better at all, then it might be that I do need to go to 102s just for kind of the most appropriate running conditions. But I just want to see if it runs any better at all, and if it don't, I'm going to whip them back off, and we're going to be going to 110s to see if that solves any problems at all, really. Okay guys, so what might happen here, we've down jetted from middles were 105s, outers were 108s, and we've gone all the way down to 102s on all four. The obvious thing is it might not start. It may not start. The second thing is it might start because it started before and we haven't changed the pilot jet. So it might start anyway, but then it still won't like any throttle. Now if it don't like any throttle, we have to work out whether we need something in between 108s, 105s and 102s, or if we need to go a bit higher to the 110s, 112s. I mean, the carbs are all fully on properly, but they're kind of quick to pop on and off at this stage where I haven't, you know, fully tightened them up, and I haven't got the AirPods on because there's no point at this stage. It won't make enough of a difference to be an issue. So, well, let me put a bit more fuel in and we'll hit the start button. Remember, it will need a minute or two to warm up. No. Choke, is that choke on? The choke is on. Let's try with no choke, just out of curiosity. Oh. Right. Maybe this battery's died. Alright guys, I'm going to have to get the boost box. I think that battery's a bit low now, so give me a minute. Okay, so we're back. The carbs are dripping a bit, they're leaking a bit, but that's kind of okay. Let's just see if it starts. I think that started better, and let's get it up to temperature and then we'll give it a rev and we'll see what's going on. If we find that it revs up and seems much better, then we will probably need a carb rebuild kit, new seals, new floats, everything, and should be alright, but that is high hopes at this stage. Let's see how it revs. Yeah! No choke. Watch. So we need to upjet a little bit more. Actually, we won't need to upjet a little bit more because we're running air filters. Once them air filters are back on, that should run so well. Shall I try and pop them back in? Let's do that. Let me pop these air filters back in. Okay, so we've got our cool AirPods in. Let's see if that's a little bit better. We'll let it get up to temperature. As long as we're in sync, watch the throttle response, throttle and watch up here. Instant revs all throughout the rev range. Wow. Guys, it took about 12 hours, but the toughest part of the build is done. The carbs are sorted. That's absolutely brilliant. Yes, now the fun part starts, guys. Cleaning the bike, getting it roadworthy, MOT. And some new AirPods, them ones just don't quite do it. I mean, they're on there, but I think they'll fall off easily. I need to get ones that fit better. Bike's definitely at temperature now. Sometimes, guys, I forget how complex these builds can be, because when I say I get frustrated, that's, you know, absolute understatement. Working on these carbs for the last couple of days has been tough work, and it all come down in the end to the fact that somebody upjetted it massively and to the completely wrong spec, and I think that's probably what took the bike off the road. They've put in 108s on the outsides and 105s on the insides, and actually the originals were all 98s left to right. I've gone to AirPods, I've put in 100s all the way along, and that is stunning. That's running like a beauty. It will need the proper AirPods that are secure full time. That's great. I am considering using the original airbox and surrounding these AirPods within there. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure if that will work. I am definitely, though, going to be running the chrome side pieces, so they go, where do they sit? Somewhere here, like that. which is great. It shouldn't restrict flow. I have to work out how it sits, something like that. And we'll be looking at kind of MOT stuff next. This battery is a good battery, that's great. I didn't have to use the booster box. So yeah, honestly guys, really exciting. Let's fire it on again. Press the button, it should start quite quickly. Obviously now it won't. Alright, it needs some rest. Yeah, that's great. From a carb point of view, we're putting we're putting fuel straight into the carbs. That's why it can be getting overwhelmed and spilling out. The actual tank uses a suction system, so I'll be trying with that system first to see if that works. Remember, that will release a certain amount of fuel out and not all at once. That will help the carbs not get overwhelmed, although to be fair, the floats should be doing that anyway, and for some reason the floats aren't doing a great job. I can order new floats and new float needles, valves, which I will do actually, it'd be silly not to. And the new pods. But yeah, from here now, this is about cleaning this bike up, making sure it passes an MOT. I'm going to try some cutting compound on that tank just to see if it comes up a little bit better. And the next part of the work is all very exciting actually, because the main part's done and solved now. What we don't know is if we're running too rich, but we shouldn't be. Originals are originals are 98, we're running 100s, we've gone 8 up, 2 on each carb. For the AirPods, that's the recommendation. This bike should be running absolutely perfectly, and honestly it looks and it sounds like it does. So I think we're good to go there. Once this rain stops, I'm going to be looking at the exhaust, seeing if there's any holes or gaps or leaks, and I'm going to be looking at polishing it up a bit, putting the tank on, seeing if the suction system works better and doesn't, you know, overwhelm the carbs, and so on and so on. But for now, there's not much more I can do because it's raining, and we're kind of, well, really I need to be out here in the light. I also don't want to restrict my movement by throwing the tank on. If you look at these, they kind of, look, see how loose, they just don't seal. And I know they haven't got cable ties or anything on them, but they're just so solid now. They're not flexible enough anymore. People say you can throw them in the oven, which you can, but that you can warm them up basically, but that will then get them on, and then they'll just go back to their solid state and they won't be great. Probably worth a try. No, I'm gonna order new pods. Okay guys, it's a bit dark, nothing interesting to see here. Basic oil change. I thought I'd loosened the nut. The nut was extremely rusty. I doubt it's been done since at least 2013, which is when the bike was last on the road. More realistically, a year before that or so. We'll see kind of what the oil's like. I'll be upset if it's nice. I'm sure it'll be black as anything. Oh, it's worse than black. It's cream. We're getting a lot of cream oil at the moment, aren't we? I don't know what that is, like it's moisture, isn't it? I need to put a new washer on this. It's a horrible colour that I don't know if you can see because of the light. I mean, we had that recently. What did we have that on? We had that on another bike recently. I think that's just a stale... It's just a stale old oil. Something quite therapeutic about watching the oil drain out. Also a bit annoying. It's taking ages. Alright guys, I'll come back to you when I've completely drained this. Hey guys, look at the colour of that coffee. I see this quite a lot. It would only be a problem if you were running this bike. If I sent this bike off and I hadn't checked or changed that oil, then it would become an issue. That is not going to lubricate the engine properly. And that oil's been in there since at least 2013, probably longer. And that will be a mixture of moisture and stuff like that over the years. You'll also find that when your oil comes out like this, you'll have over the recommended amount of oil in your bike, where the moisture has joined the oil and it's kind of lifted it over the years. So whatever one we did last time that had loads in, I can't remember what that was. That probably had the same thing. I've put the bung back in. I've put a new washer on it, a crush washer. So I'll top it back up, and at least this bike today is running well, and we've done a oil service and it doesn't need an air filter service, and the spark plugs have been cleaned. So we're looking at a good stage. I started cleaning the exhaust a little bit just here. You can see it's shining up, but it's not gonna, it's not gonna become completely clean. I don't believe at any point, not easily. You could try the old Harpic stuff on it. I doubt that would do enough. But that's up to whoever ends up with a bike like this, I guess. I don't mind exhaust being a bit rough. I really, exhaust will never be shiny all the time, and if you're looking after your bike that much, then you're probably not using it enough. But that's only my opinion. Some people really like the exhaust to be clean and tidy. Okay everyone, so let's have a look at the paintwork on this tank. I can't do much here because the weather's terrible. The light's okay though. I'm slightly in the garage and slightly out. Let's do a normal basic clean first. This is just soap and water, so washing up liquid and water. And I'm running out of nice microfibers. All we're doing here is just a clean and dry it off a touch, and then I'll grab the turtle wax compound. Now, even though this pad has some red on it, I'm going to use this pad because you get better grip basically. And let's see, if you look at all these spots here, I don't know if you can see this chipped paint, this cracked paint. I don't think it will do anything for that, but all of this should kind of come out and come off, and it should all look a little bit cleaner in the end. Let's have a look. It may not, it may be bad for the paint because the paint's been ruined. so you can't really see what it's achieved now until you wipe it down, but I doubt it's anything special. See all these cracks? That's just from old paintwork. It's quite cool actually, I quite like the effect. Yeah. All we've really done there is added a shiny layer over crap paint. It's not actually crap paint, it's original paint, and it's, I mean, what year is this bike? N-Reg, what year is N? Ooh, 94? So, you know, what's it, 26 years old? Is it 26, is that right? And obviously this bike's been sitting around a while, so this stuff's gonna happen. I'm gonna give it a bit more of a wipe, and then I'm gonna throw a layer of wax over it, because this is it. That's the best you're gonna get this paintwork at this stage. This is what you're working with, unless it's repainted. This bike's going to a friend, someone I know, so and he's got a budget of £1,000, so there'd be no point looking at any kind of painting or any other stuff for this. Let me put a little bit of wax on and see if that just brings it up a little bit nicer. So just turtle wax. You just put a bit on an area of the cloth, like that, and just work it in. Give it a minute and then we'll buff it to a shine. You end up with like that old survival bike look where somebody cleared the patina. Lots of people do it with rust and stuff nowadays, don't they? That's cleaned up okay actually. I don't know if you can see, oh yeah, you can see it there on the screen, can't you? That's the paint really close up, but from a distance it's not that bad at all. And I think this bike will clean up lovely. I have no doubts now it will start every press of the button. No doubts at all. I can hear the engine. It needs an oil change. I might actually do that now. Well, I'm stuck in this dark, cold garage. Should I drop the oil now? Might as well, eh? I'll go grab the new oil. Okay guys, so big lesson learnt here. See the engine breather? That's why there would have been so much water in that oil. The bike would have been left out somewhere with that not connected or blocked, and that's what would have happened. If we're not using the pipe anymore, we can put on one of these. All it's designed to do is keep out the rain and let engine crank pressure out, so that's absolutely fine like that. I had to slit the bottom to get this on, but there's not enough pressure to pop this off, and I can now put a thing around it, a clamp, and clamp it on, so that will be stuck there forever, and there is still enough room for the AirPods to go in. No point putting fresh oil in here and having that wide open in case the bike's out in the open. So I just used the cutting compound on the front fender. Looks came out really nice. And on the rear unit here, again though, it just accentuates the weird paint job, but that's fine. I'm just doing bits of cleaning up at the moment on it, just because it's stuff that has to be done in the end anyway. It just all needs a bit of cleaning, so it's worth doing when you find the time. Especially as actually it's now a riding bike. I'm actually going to throw the petrol tank back on as well.